You'll stop chasing when you realize your energy is the prize. That quote right there, it's not just a catchy phrase, it's the kind of truth that punches through years of silent suffering. Because for too long, my friends, you've been told the biggest lie in dating, that you have to earn love, that you need to hustle for attention, contort your worth, and bend yourself into someone else's fantasy just to be seen. But let me tell you something most won't dare admit. The more you chase, the more they run. And the moment you shift your energy, 99.9% will feel it. They won't know why, but they'll start looking for you. Before we go deeper into this truth bomb of a video, I need you to do one thing for me. Press that like button if you're tired of chasing people who don't value you. And hit subscribe if you're ready to flip the script, reclaim your power, and attract from a place of strength. Because what I'm about to share isn't fluff, it's a full-blown mindset reset. This one shift we're diving into today, it doesn't just change attraction, it changes everything. Now, hey folks, picture this. You're a flame, warm, steady, powerful. But instead of standing tall and letting the world gather around your light, you're running through the forest, chasing moths. Moths that keep flying away the closer you get. Sounds wild, right? But that's what most men are doing. Chasing validation, chasing attention. And just like moths to a flame, the second you stand still and burn with confidence, they come to you. That's the shift we're talking about today, the shift from external desperation to internal magnetism. It's not about pretending to be something you're not. It's about remembering who you were before the world told you that you had to beg to be loved, before the heartbreaks, before the games, before the doubts. Somewhere along the way, they taught you to chase, and in doing so, you forgot how powerful it is to simply stand still and be seen. Let me break a few more lies for you while we're at it. You don't need to be rich to be attractive, you don't need a six-pack to be desired, and you sure as hell don't need to play mind games or memorize text scripts to win someone over. What you need is presence, self-respect, emotional discipline, and that subtle, powerful shift that says, I don't chase, I choose. Even the best of us fall into the trap. Maybe you've been ghosted, maybe you've been friend-zoned, maybe you keep thinking, what's wrong with me? But hear this loud and clear, there is nothing wrong with you. You've just been misled. Conditioned to believe you have to earn what should be naturally drawn to you when you're aligned with your worth. And that ends today. Let them underestimate you. Let them think you're easy to walk away from. Because when you master this one shift, you'll become the one who gets remembered in silence, the one who lives rent-free in their thoughts. You won't have to chase love. You'll become love. You won't chase desire. You'll radiate it. You won't try to be enough. You'll realize you already are. So drop this in the comments right now before we even dive into the first shift. I am the shift. Say it loud. Show the world. Show yourself. Because this is the beginning of something different, something deeper, something that makes 99.9% look back and think, damn, I should have never let that one go. Stay with me. This next part, it's where the fire begins. Number 1, from approval seeking to energy ownership. The moment you stop needing their approval is the moment they start craving your presence. That one line could change your entire life if you really hear it, because most people don't. Most people nod at quotes like that, then go right back to chasing, texting first, double texting when ignored, hoping for a reply like a beggar waiting for crumbs from a royal table. My friends, I'm not here to coddle you. I'm here to wake you up. You're not a beggar. You're not some lost soul wandering through relationships trying to be enough. You are the table. You just forgot. Imagine this for a second. You're standing in the middle of a giant marketplace, holding your soul in your hands like a product. You keep shouting, "Look at me. I'm valuable. I'm funny. I'm loyal. Please choose me." You try to smile the right way, dress the way they like, talk the way they want, but it never feels enough. That's what approval seeking looks like. It's like auctioning off your self-worth to the lowest bidder, hoping someone places a bet before the final gavel hits. And let's be real, you've probably asked yourself this before. Why do I care so much if they like me? Why does their silence hit harder than rejection? Why do I feel invisible if I'm not constantly giving something? The answer is deeper than you think, because it's not just about attraction, it's about identity. Somewhere along the way, you started measuring your worth through other people's reactions. Their smile meant you were okay. Their attention meant you were valuable. Their affection meant you mattered. And without that, you felt hollow, replaceable, like nothing. But here's the hard truth. You'll never be free until you stop needing their yes to feel complete. This is where the real shift begins, when you stop performing. Stop trying to earn. Stop shrinking your essence just to fit inside someone else's temporary attention span. When you stop showing up just to be liked and start showing up as your full damn self, with or without their approval. This is not easy. Let's not lie to ourselves. Approval seeking is addictive because it gives us a temporary high, a like, a reply, a compliment. It lights up the brain like fireworks. It feels good for a moment, but like all highs, it fades. And then you're left chasing again. That's why this shift is so hard. It forces you to sit in the silence. It asks you to find your power without the applause. It dares you to be magnetic without moving. And most people can't do it. Most people crumble when ignored. Most people panic when the texts slow down. Most people try harder when the attention fades. But not you, not anymore, because now you see it for what it is, a test, a mirror, a moment where you either betray yourself or reclaim yourself. Let me say this loud for the people in the back. You do not need to be more likable. You need to be more you. You don't need everyone to like you. You just need to stop abandoning yourself, trying to please people who wouldn't even bleed for you. This is energy ownership. This is when you walk into a room and don't scan the faces to see who likes you. You walk in like the ground should be grateful you touched it. Not in arrogance, but in truth. Because when you know who you are and what you bring to the table, you stop offering it to people who aren't even hungry. And ironically, that's when the game changes. That's when they start chasing. When they start wondering, why doesn't he care if I like him? When they feel something in you they can't label, but they feel it. You're not performing. You're not desperate. You're just there, solid, certain, enough. And sure, there will still be fear. That part of your mind that whispers, but what if they leave? What if no one ever really sees me? But you need to rise anyway, because if they only stay when you shrink, then they're not staying for you, they're staying for the illusion. And I promise you, nothing feels lonelier than being loved for a version of yourself you created just to be accepted. So let it go. Let the old habits die. Let the need to be liked fall to the ground like dead weight. You don't need that anymore. What you need is to remember your value, own your presence, hold your energy like a crown, not a coupon. Write this down in the comments right now. I own my energy. Say it, feel it, be it. Let the world read it and know that someone just woke up. Because we're not done yet, folks. What's coming next? It's going to hit even harder, because now that we've broken the lie of approval seeking, it's time to master the art of silence. Stay with me. This next one is a game changer. Number 2, the gravity of presence. Less words, more weight. The loudest one in the room is usually the weakest. That quote might sting, but if you're the kind of man who talks too much, tries too hard, or always feels the need to explain himself, you need to hear this. Presence, real presence, isn't loud. It's not about being the most charming guy at the table, the fastest texter in her inbox, or the one who always has something clever to say. Presence is silent gravity. It's felt before it's seen. And once you master it, they start chasing without knowing why. Imagine walking into a room full of people. Now, you don't say a word. You don't force a smile. You don't adjust your shirt or look around to see who noticed you. You just exist. Calm, still, rooted, and without trying, you feel people start turning their heads. That's the power we're talking about here. Not the guy jumping up and down for attention, but the one who doesn't need to speak to be respected. Let me ask you this, my friends. Why do you always feel the need to fill the silence? Why do you feel uncomfortable just being? Is it because silence feels like rejection, like emptiness, like maybe if you're not saying something you'll be forgotten? That's what you've been conditioned to believe, that if you don't stay visible, you'll be invisible, that if you don't perform, they won't choose you. So you talk too much, you overshare, you try to impress with words instead of holding weight with presence. But here's the truth most never realize. People don't remember what you said. They remember how they felt around you. And when your energy is grounded, when you're not performing, not trying, not overreaching, you become something rare. You become peace in a world that's addicted to noise. And trust me, peace is magnetic. In a dating world full of fast talkers, clowns, and approval-hungry boys, the man who carries stillness becomes unforgettable. He doesn't rush, he doesn't chase, he just is. And people don't know why they're drawn to him, but they are. Like planets around a sun. This is where the gravity shift happens. You move from being the guy who overcompensates to the guy who commands without force. You stop explaining yourself to people who aren't listening. You stop reacting to texts like your life depends on it. You stop laughing at jokes you don't find funny just to keep the mood light. You stop chasing and start attracting through your stillness. And yes, it's hard, it's uncomfortable at first, because silence feels scary, like if I don't say something they'll lose interest, or if I don't text first, they'll forget about me. But what if I told you the opposite is true? That by saying less, you make them curious, that by holding space, you force them to come closer, that by not reacting instantly, you create mystery. And mystery, folks, is powerful. Think about it. Which man does they think about more? The one who's constantly in her face, texting good morning and good night, or the one who's calm, grounded, and not in a rush to impress her? The one who leaves room for her to wonder, what's going on in his mind? That's the one who gets chased. Because when you don't give it all away at once, people lean in. They want to know more. They invest more. Stillness is power. But it's not passive. It's deliberate. It says, I know who I am, and I don't need to convince you. It says, I choose my words carefully because my energy speaks for me. It says, you don't get access to me just because you showed up. I decide who gets my time. And in that stillness, you become dangerous, in the best way. Because they can't predict you, they can't control you, and most of all, they can't ignore you. So stop filling silence with noise. Let your stillness echo louder than any words. Watch what happens when you walk slower, talk softer, and hold eye contact longer than what feels comfortable. Watch what happens when you pause before you speak, and speak only when it matters. You'll notice something strange. They'll start leaning in. They'll start watching. They'll start feeling you, not because you were loud, but because you were real. Now take a second. Breathe. Feel that shift in your body. That stillness. That's presence. That's the beginning of something powerful. And if this part hit you, do this. Type this in the comments right now. I am the gravity. Let it be your declaration. Show yourself. Show them. Show the world. Because what's coming next, it's going to challenge the part of you that always tries to prove. And we're about to rip that part right out. Stay close. Number 3, starve the urge to prove. The moment you try to prove your worth, you've already forgotten it. That one hits deep, doesn't it? Because if you've ever found yourself trying to convince someone to like you, trying to show them you're different, better, or worth it, you've already slipped. You've already abandoned your center. My friends, this section is not going to be easy to swallow, but it's the one most of you need the most. Because the truth is, the urge to prove yourself is rooted in fear. Fear of being unseen, fear of not being chosen, fear that if you don't do something, if you don't make them see your value, you'll be forgotten. That fear, that's the enemy. That's the silent force that turns kings into clowns. It's the invisible chain that keeps powerful men stuck in cycles of overcompensating and self-abandonment, begging for scraps of recognition they should never have to earn in the first place. Imagine this: a lion walking through the jungle doesn't roar to prove he's a lion. He doesn't explain himself to every creature he passes. He doesn't wear a crown or hold a sign that says Apex Predator. He just walks, and everything around him feels it. You never see the lion try to convince the jungle of his worth. He simply is. And that presence, that quiet knowing, that's what makes him untouchable. Now flip the image. Picture a man constantly explaining his value. I'm a good guy. I'm different from other men. I would treat you better. That's the energy of a man who's forgotten his worth. Because if you are valuable, you don't need to say it. You show it by the way you carry yourself, by the way you walk away when you're not respected, by the way you choose yourself in silence instead of begging in noise. Let's ask the tough questions, folks. Why do you feel the need to prove? Why does rejection hurt more than it should? Why do you think that being good enough for someone else means you're finally worthy? It's because deep down, most of us were raised to believe that love is a reward we earn through performance. Be the nice guy, be the provider, be the fixer, be everything they needs, and maybe they won't leave. But here's the harsh truth that flips the entire dynamic. The more you try to prove your worth, the less worthy you appear. Because worth doesn't beg. Worth doesn't chase. Worth doesn't plead to be seen. Worth is recognized, not explained. And you know what's worse? Most of the time, the people you're trying to prove yourself to, they're not even capable of seeing your value. You're offering gold to someone who only values glitter. You're pouring love into hands that were never meant to hold it. You're building temples for people who only wanted a cheap thrill. That's the painful part. But it's also the wake-up call. The moment you stop proving and start embodying, everything changes. You stop trying to be enough for people who don't even know what enough looks like. You start showing up with stillness, with strength, with silence that speaks louder than words. And ironically, that's when they start chasing. Not because you played a game, but because you stopped playing theirs. It's time to break this cycle. It's time to cut off the supply. Stop giving your energy to people who only value you when you're useful. Stop trying to impress people who don't even impress you. Ask yourself that next time you find yourself bending, over-explaining, trying to be liked. Do you even like them? Or are you just addicted to the approval? Here's what I want you to do instead. Step into the version of you that doesn't need to prove anything. Speak less, move slower, walk away quicker. Let your absence speak. Let your boundaries be felt. Be the man who holds his value like a rare currency, not a clearance sale. Because when people realize they can't guilt you, pressure you, or emotionally manipulate you into proving your worth, they'll either rise to meet your level or fall away. And both outcomes are blessings. My friends, this shift is not just about attraction, it's about liberation. You've been trapped in a cage built from your own need for validation, and today we break the lock. You don't need to be more. You need to remember who you were before they made you think you weren't enough. And the world will adjust to that man. Trust me. So right now, drop this in the comments. I am done proving. Let it be your declaration. Let it echo through your actions, your energy, your silence. Let them feel the shift before you even say a word. And stay with me, because what's coming next will take this even deeper. You've just dropped the weight of proving. Now we move into something even more powerful, the unstoppable force of emotional detachment. This next one, it's the key to being unforgettable. Number 4, detachment is power, not indifference. The one who needs nothing owns everything. Let that sink in, because detachment, my friends, isn't about not caring. It's about caring in the right direction. It's about shifting your energy inward, where your real power lives, and refusing to let your emotional state be held hostage by someone else's attention, affection, or lack of it. We've been sold a false idea that to show we care, we must suffer, that to love, we must lose ourselves. That detachment means coldness, arrogance, playing hard to get. But those are games. Detachment is not a game. It's a spiritual discipline, a calm force, the quiet knowing that whether they come closer or walk away, you're still good, still whole, still you. Picture a mountain, solid, unmoved. It doesn't chase storms. It doesn't fear the wind. It stands. It watches everything come and go, people, seasons, chaos, and remains unshaken. That's detachment. And when you become that mountain, they feel it. They sense that you won't be rocked by a missed text, a delayed response, or a sudden shift in tone. You become unpredictable in the best way, not by manipulation, but by mastery. Now I know what some of you are thinking, but if I stop showing I care, won't they lose interest? If I detach, won't I seem cold? Isn't that what toxic people do? Let me hit you with the truth. You've confused obsession with love and anxiety with care. You've been taught that chasing harder means you're more invested, that being overly available makes you more lovable. But all it really does is make you forgettable. When your emotions are tossed around by every shift in their mood, you become reactive, predictable, and predictable energy rarely gets chased. Detachment is not about shutting down, it's about standing up for yourself. It's being fully present in the moment, yet untouched by the outcome. It's being able to love deeply, but not lose your soul in the process. Because when you detach, you start making decisions from clarity, not desperation. You stop texting just to keep the connection alive. You stop staying where your value isn't honored. You stop trying to control every conversation, every vibe, every "what are we" moment. And suddenly, the energy shifts. They feel it. They notice the silence. They realize you're no longer orbiting their mood, and that's when they start leaning in. Because people always want what they feel they can't control. Here's the twist. Detachment actually deepens your relationships, not weakens them. Why? Because when you're not desperate for someone's attention, you stop manipulating. You stop controlling. You start experiencing. You start choosing who stays, not out of fear, but out of truth. And the ones who are real, they'll rise to meet you. They'll feel your calm and crave your peace. But this isn't easy. This takes discipline. Because detachment forces you to confront yourself. It forces you to sit in silence when every part of you wants to reach out. It demands you respect your boundaries more than you fear their absence. It requires a level of emotional maturity that most never reach. That's why detachment isn't popular. It's misunderstood, misused. But those who master it, they become unshakable. So what does detachment actually look like? It's the man who doesn't panic when they pulls back. It's the man who doesn't start chasing just because he felt distance. It's the man who can hold eye contact, speak with calm, and say, "If you stay, stay. If you go, I'll still be centered. Not in anger, not in bitterness, but in power. Let me be real with you. You will be tested. You'll meet someone who awakens parts of you. You'll feel the urge to fall back into old habits, to prove, to please, to obsess. But in that moment, remember this: the version of you that clings is not the version that gets chased. You don't get what you want by holding tighter. You get what's meant for you by letting go. And here's the crazy part. When you truly detach, people often come back, not because you manipulated them, but because your energy became irresistible. Your peace became loud. Your absence became a mirror. They start wondering, well, why doesn't he need me? And that question, that's what makes them chase. So here's your moment, folks. Take a breath. Let go of who you thought you had to be loved. Let go of the urge to control how they see you. Let go of the fear that silence equals loss. Because real power, real attraction, it comes from the man who can walk away with peace. Now type this in the comments right now. I let go to rise. Let it be your anchor. Say it, feel it, live it. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world around you what true detachment looks like, and stay close, because what's next is the most misunderstood power move of all. We're about to flip your focus from them to you. Get ready to stop controlling and start centering. This is about to get even deeper. Number 5, the shift from control to centering. Control is the illusion. Centering is the power. Most people spend their whole lives trying to control others, how they think, how they respond, what they feel. And in that desperate attempt to manage everything outside of themselves, they lose the only thing they ever really had: their center. My friends, this part right here, it might be the one that sets you free forever, because once you stop trying to control them and start learning how to control yourself, the entire dynamic shifts. Now, let's get real. Control is seductive. It feels like safety. If you can predict their behavior, you won't get hurt. If you know what they're thinking, you won't be rejected. If you can guide every interaction just right, maybe, just maybe, they'll stay. But that's not connection. That's survival mode. That's fear wearing the mask of strategy. And every time you fall into it, you disconnect from your power. Imagine standing in the middle of a storm, wind tearing through trees, rain crashing down, and everyone else is running, shouting, trying to stop the chaos. But you just stand there, calm, unmoving. That's the difference between a man who tries to control the storm and a man who isn't afraid of it. That's centering. And when you find it, when you become that still point in a spinning world, everything begins to orbit around you. Let me ask you this, my friends. Why are you trying so hard to control how someone sees you? Why do you analyze every word they say? Why do you shapeshift just to fit the vibe? It's because deep down you fear that if you let go, they'll leave. That if you don't manage the moment, they'll slip away. And here's the hard truth. Maybe they will. But that's not your job to prevent. Your job isn't to force someone to choose you. Your job is to stay rooted in who you are and let the right people feel drawn to your peace. When you're centered, you stop needing to react. You stop sending that follow-up text. You stop replaying the conversation 50 times in your head because you no longer feel responsible for someone else's perception. You no longer give away your emotional climate to the mood swings of someone else. And what happens when you do that? They start to notice that they can't rattle you. They can't manipulate you with distance. They can't get your attention by withdrawing theirs. You're no longer emotionally available on demand. You've become rare, different, and that difference is intoxicating. This is what most people never understand. The most powerful men are not the ones who control the room. They're the ones who anchor it. They don't speak first. They don't rush to fill silence. They wait. They observe. They choose when to act, not based on insecurity, but on intention. They are present, but detached, open, but guarded, strong, but still. And yes, it's going to be uncomfortable. The part of you that was raised on instant validation is going to itch when things get quiet. You're going to feel the urge to reach out, to clarify, to fix. But pause, sit in that fire. That's the storm you have to face and conquer if you want to become unshakable. Because here's the truth. Control is exhausting. Centering is liberating. When you let go of needing to control the outcome, you start attracting everything that's truly aligned. You don't waste time forcing things that were never meant to fit. You don't lose sleep over people who were never meant to stay. You stop operating from fear and start moving in power. And I promise you this, the moment you make this shift, people will feel it. They'll feel that you're no longer giving your energy just to keep the peace. You're no longer bending over backwards to be liked. You're no longer reacting to every emotional fluctuation. You're just centered. And that calm energy, that grounded presence, it draws them in without effort. So stop trying to control her response. Stop trying to control the pace of the relationship. Stop trying to control every text, every tone, every beat. Instead, control you. Control how you breathe, how you show up, how you respond when things get uncertain. That's real strength. That's stoic attraction. So if this one hit your core, and I know for many of you it just did, then I want you to write this in the comments right now. I choose my center. Say it like you mean it. Let it echo inside you. Let it remind you the next time your hands are trembling above your phone. That silence is stronger than overreaction. That stillness is louder than noise. And stay close, my friends, because what's next will take everything we've built so far and amplify it. We're about to unlock the difference between chasing attention and commanding respect. This shift, it's where the real pursuit begins. Number 6. Choose over chase. The power of standards. When you start choosing instead of chasing, you don't lose people, you lose the ones who were never for you. Let that settle for a second, because for most of your life, you've been trained to chase, trained to seek validation, trained to pursue anyone who gives you a little bit of attention like it's a drop of water in the middle of a desert. And in doing so, you've ignored your power, abandoned your standards, and settled for connections that were never meant to hold the weight of your soul. But now, that ends. This next shift is about reclaiming your seat at the table. It's about realizing that your energy is not for everyone, and the moment you stop chasing and start choosing, everything changes. Picture this. You walk into a store, there's a shirt hanging on the wall. It's cheap, poorly stitched, the design is off, but the tag says, "One of a kind, must act now, last one left." And suddenly, you're interested. Why? Because it's scarce, urgent, available now. That's how most people behave when they chase, desperate, ready to settle, scared to miss out. Now flip the image. You walk into another room. There's a suit, elegant, tailored, no discounts, no signs. It doesn't try to get your attention. It just sits there, confident in its worth. And you feel it. You know it's not for everyone. It's for someone who sees value without needing to be begged. That's who you must become. Because when you chase, you communicate one thing. I hope I'm good enough for you. But when you choose, you send a completely different message. I know what I'm worth, and I'll wait for what aligns with it. And here's the part most won't tell you. When you finally raise your standards, people will leave. They'll fall off. They'll ghost. They'll accuse you of being distant, too confident, too into yourself. And that's perfect. Because anyone who's intimidated by your growth was only ever loyal to your low standards. The ones who truly belong, they rise with you, or they already live at that level. Now, let's ask the tough questions. Why do you find yourself giving multiple chances to people who wouldn't give you one? Why do you feel the need to prove yourself to someone who barely meets your standards? Why do you keep allowing people into your life who drain you, confuse you, and never choose you back? It's because somewhere along the way you were taught that having options makes you valuable, but it's not the options, it's the standards. Any man can entertain 10 people. A powerful man filters 10 people out to make space for one who actually matters, because real value isn't in quantity, it's in clarity. The man who chooses over chasing has a presence that speaks without saying a word. He doesn't run after inconsistent energy. He doesn't settle for almost. He's not impressed by someone's potential. He waits for patterns. And when someone tries to breadcrumb him or play games, he doesn't get reactive. He gets absent. Not because he's cold, but because his peace is more valuable than confusion. But here's where it gets real. This shift isn't just about rejecting others, it's about disciplining yourself. It's about being honest enough to say, I've been entertaining people out of loneliness, not alignment. I've been afraid of being alone, so I lowered the bar. I've been chasing what I should have been walking away from. And that's okay. We've all done it. But now, we rise. You want to be the one who gets chased, then become the one who doesn't chase anyone. Not because you're bitter, not because you're closed off, but because you have standards so high they can't be faked. And that kind of energy, it's unforgettable, it's rare, it's what they keep coming back to when they realize the world doesn't offer it easily. You don't need to prove you're loyal. Let your absence speak louder than your effort. You don't need to show how much you care. Let your boundaries reveal your self-respect. You don't need to explain why you're walking away. The moment you stop chasing, you already said enough. So let this be the shift, from proving to protecting, From chasing to choosing, from settling to standing. Because you weren't born to beg for crumbs, you were born to feast at tables you built with your own value. If this lit something inside you, then drop this in the comments right now. I choose over chase. Let it ring, let it echo. Let the world feel that something in you has changed, that you're no longer available for mediocrity, that your time, your energy, your love is earned, not chased. And stay with me, because next up, we're diving into one of the deepest shifts of all. The moment you stop reacting and start becoming the reward. It's time to flip the entire attraction dynamic on its head. Let's go. Number 7. Be the reward, not the reaction. The moment you realize you are the reward is the moment you stop reacting to crumbs. Let's end this strong, my friends, because everything we've built up to, every shift in energy, every layer of detachment, every standard you've raised, comes down to this one truth. You are not here to chase. You are here to be chosen, not by begging, not by overgiving, but by becoming the kind of man who is so grounded in his value that others feel privileged just to stand near your peace. You see, when you're stuck in reaction mode, you're not living, you're surviving. Every message they send dictates your mood. Every silence feels like a dagger. You're walking on eggshells, adjusting your tone, checking your phone like your soul is locked behind a screen. That's not power. That's prison. Being the reward means shifting from emotional chaos to emotional clarity. It means you no longer light yourself on fire just to keep others warm. You stop wondering, did I say too much? Or should I have texted differently? You start asking better questions like, did they show up with respect? Do they align with my peace? Are they worthy of me? Let's flip the metaphor. Imagine you walk into a museum. Behind the glass is a priceless artifact, protected, respected, admired. Nobody touches it without permission. Nobody questions its worth. Nobody rushes past it without pausing. Now, imagine if that artifact just jumped out of the glass and started following every visitor around saying, "Pick me, I'm valuable." Insane, right? But that's how many of us behave in dating, running after people who don't even recognize our worth. And in doing so, we stop being the reward. We become the reaction. But when you decide to become the reward, everything shifts. You don't beg for someone's time. You become the kind of man whose time is earned. You don't react to their inconsistency. You observe it. You don't try to fix the connection. You filter it. You don't collapse the moment someone pulls away. You rise. You stand so tall in your value that their confusion becomes your clarity. Here's the secret. People respect what they have to earn. They ignore what is always available. And I know that sounds harsh. I know it goes against everything you've been taught. But life doesn't reward the loudest. It rewards the clearest. And the man who knows he's the reward doesn't need to yell. He just exists, grounded, intentional, still. Now, let's address the fear. Because yes, this shift can be lonely. When you stop reacting, some people will fade. When you start valuing yourself, some connections will fall apart. But let them. Because the reward was never meant for everyone. It was meant for the ones who recognize it without being reminded. You don't attract loyalty by giving more. You attract loyalty by being more. More silent in chaos, more focused in temptation, more rooted when others waver. And when they feel that kind of presence, solid, centered, unavailable to games, they lean in. Not because you begged, but because they noticed. Let's be brutally honest. If you're constantly reacting, you're not leading. And a man who isn't leading his energy can't attract anything real. He can attract chaos, he can attract drama, he can attract attention, but not real connection. Because connection doesn't grow where desperation lives. It grows in the quiet soil of self-respect, of chosen silence, of intentional presence. So be the reward. Be the moment they remembers in the middle of the night. Be the peace that feels rare. Be the one who didn't fold, didn't chase, didn't beg. Be the one who stayed centered and let everything that wasn't aligned fall away. Because when you finally stop reacting and become the standard, something powerful happens. You no longer ask, "How do I keep them interested?" You start asking, "Do they deserve access to me?" And that question alone, that's the one that sets your soul free. So if you're done playing small, if you're done chasing people who wouldn't cross the street for you, if you're ready to become the reward instead of the reaction, then comment this right now: I am the reward. Say it, own it. Let it be the final line in the story you're no longer willing to live. And if this journey has hit your heart, if every shift we've walked through in this video lit something in you, then hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel, share this with a brother who needs to hear it. Because this isn't just a video. This is a wake-up call, a blueprint, a return to power. This is powerful Stoic habits. And you're no longer chasing, you're becoming.